about to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Leandro Facchinetti, this is David, and we are going to be talking about code and potentially even writing some code. How are you doing, David?
Doing very well. I'm excited to get started.
Well, thanks for joining me again on this Geeking Out sessions. And we are going to start with something that I thought was super cool. I love this story because I had this problem when I was in grad school. I was doing program analysis using JavaScript, and I had to compare data structures by value. So I would create two objects, and if the objects had the same keys and the same values, then I wanted them to compare equally, to be the same, specifically because I wanted to have maps and sets of these objects. And what is tricky about that is that JavaScript doesn't have a concept of value equality. It only has the concept of reference equality. Or maybe when I say value equality, I should say structure equality. And not only that, maps and sets in JavaScript don't have a way to specify comparison. It always uses the internal algorithm that I think is same value equals 0, something like that, name of the algorithm. But you don't have a choice. You have to use that algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
And unlike languages like Java, you cannot specify comparison for arbitrary objects either.
Mm-hmm.
The meaning of triple equals is embedded in the language. So
Yeah.
the way that I solved that problem back then was that I created a map and a set that extended the JavaScript maps and sets, and that implemented a different notion of equality. That works, great. Then I showed this to David, and he was like, oh, I solved the same problem in a different way. Instead of overriding the notion of equality and extending maps and sets, you can, when creating an object, deduplicate it. And I was like, oh, this is brilliant, because not only it solves the problems of maps and sets without having to redefine a bunch of methods, but also triple equals just works, which happens to be very handy in some contexts. So I implemented that. And then David came along and he said, aha, but I can make it better. And that's what we are going to see today. So this is the code base that contains that auxiliary function that does the deduplication, or as I like to call it, interning, because then the object becomes internal to the runtime. There is a pool of interned objects. It's something that JavaScript already does, for instance, with strings. And yeah, so this repository, David asked me why it's a monorepo. And that's an excellent question, because many of these little packages here came from existing packages.
I guess you should say this is a repo of many packages, libraries that you've created.
Yep. And they used to be all different repositories and different packages. Now they are one repository and different packages. So the trade-off that I saw was that it was harder to track issues. It was harder to track interest because they were all separate repositories. I would need to check issues in every repository, and none of the projects were super large and having tons of contributions, so it wasn't a major problem. But there was that. Also, I started to find a common thread between all the stories that I was telling in all these packages. Some of them even started depending on one another. And I thought, I think I want to tell the overarching story of these packages. Some of them are still useful by themselves. For instance, here is a package that installs Caddy, the web server. It's simply something that downloads the binary from the Caddy website or from GitHub releases. So you can npm install Caddy and you can run Caddy as if it was written in JavaScript because it's using the binary. So
does it not?
Okay, that's all.
Does that not exist already? Surprise.
There were a couple solutions in that space. Let's take a look at my research. Oh, there was only one package that did more or less what I mentioned. But here is how my version is different. Yeah, I guess it's mostly that my version downloads the latest Caddy, and this one was stuck in the past.
And once you've used npm install, you can just use it. Like, how do you use it? Why didn't they? I guess because Caddy is like a Go.
Caddy is a Go program. Yes, yeah. It's not usually available via npm. And what this package does is simply to download it. So there is a script that runs when you npm install this package. It goes to the GitHub release for the latest version of Caddy. Yep. It even queries what is the latest version of Caddy. If you want to install the latest, it can go to the GitHub API to get the latest version number. So you don't have to update my package to get the latest version of Caddy. Anyway, so this is an example of something that is very standalone. It doesn't really depend on anything else, and it's not really...
Yeah.
But it is related to the way that I'm building CourseLore, and it is related to the way that I like to build web applications. So I thought it would make sense to put it under the same umbrella, and then becomes kind of this radically straightforward package is now this... it's like a... I don't want to use the word framework. It's just a set of tools that go well together and that solve a problem in a way that I think makes sense. And in terms of maintenance, I learned that there are some tools that help you with mono repos. There is Lerna, there is, I think Yarn has some stuff for that. PNPM also has some stuff for that. I learned that I didn't need any of that. It wasn't really too complicated to set up a GitHub action that, given a list of packages, it would run the tests for all of them and deploy to npm. And I'm just using npm as usual, the npm command line. So easy enough. And yeah, so far I'm liking it. It's the first time that I'm doing a mono repo. I'm liking it.
Another thing that I noticed is that you are using Git and GitHub, but you're not using Git commit messages, which I kind of agree. But yeah, we never really touched on that.
Yeah, it's true that if you look at the commit history for most of the projects that I work on or that I'm the main maintainer, you will see that there are no commit messages. And I have received some pushback on this, and I can see why it would be beneficial to create branches and rebase and make the commit history look neat. But I never really saw the point of it when I am, for the most part, working with a small team. It's like me and a couple other people, including you, who contribute. On this project, it's so far only me. Today we are changing that. But yeah, I find that the overhead isn't really worth it. And also, I don't find that the Git history is that valuable for me. I find that it is important to be able to go back in time and stuff, but the commit messages and all of that are not really valuable. Once the project gets bigger, there are more people contributing to it, I find that there is value in that. And when I contribute to open source projects, I write detailed commit messages and detailed pull requests. It's just super easy for me to, while I'm developing, just commit. And you can see that I commit often. Many of these are like one line.
Yeah. That makes sense. Cool.
Yeah. How do you do this? Do you craft
So
careful commit messages?
personally, I also find it very hard to like I'm in the flow to like stop at the right moment to make the commit message when it's like, because it's like I've just done that, but then I like go off on a trail of thought. So it's like, and then I end up like the last thing that I was thinking about is what I write in the commit message, but that's not actually the whole point of the thing, and it gets a bit lost. So what I tend to do is just make lots of commits and then put it in a pull request on a branch, and then make sure the pull request is like, well, has a good title. And then the subcommits, like, not so much, basically.
Yeah, and I think that's the way to do it. Even when I am contributing to an open source project that is bigger and there are more people maintaining it, then I will craft good commit messages, but not the first time around. I create a branch, I start committing as I usually do, empty commit messages. Then I rebase, I squash, and I write some proper commit messages.
Yeah, but then you want to add another commit and then another, But
Yep.
and then it kind of ruins the beautiful commit
And
messages.
sometimes
What
I do
I
that last. I ask for revisions, and then as the last step, I rebase.
The other thing that I do is I say I'm working on a feature or a branch with a goal. I'll just say like, every commit message is like about updating that. Like it's the same message, but it's just like progress on this feature that I'm building. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like build calendar progress, build calendar progress. So they're all the same, they're all linked, but they're all just like about, that's the common goal they're working towards. But it's just like, there's refactoring and renaming and stuff just going on.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So
one little thing that if anyone is interested in doing like I do, if you try and commit just by hitting commit, it will ask you for a commit message in an editor. So what you have to do is like put a space and then you can commit. And if you're on the command line, not even. You will have to do more stuff. I think there is a flag like allow something.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways.
Okay.
So let's get into it. Here is... Oh, do you want to open a live share situation?
Yeah, let's do that.
Hello, Not-Was-One. Hello, Fotis. Nice to see you.
Hey, caddies.
Boop. And boop. While David is joining the session, I will show the implementation that we currently have. Then we will go to the branch that he created on his pull request, and we will see how he changed things. So I already explained what the interning is about. I can briefly go over the code, specifically the part that really matters, because some of this is just related to finding the object in the pool of interned objects. So we can skip over that because I don't think that any of that will change. What we are really interested in is... Well, actually, there are two things that are interesting in. So maybe that's another reason why I don't write careful commit messages when I'm doing stuff. I tend to work on multiple things at once, and then the commit messages wouldn't really make a lot of sense because it's like a lot of content. So there are two things that I want to address, one of which is what David wrote, but the second, and I will introduce it right now, is this. Because the way that I wrote this is I was writing it in TypeScript, but I was essentially writing JavaScript because all my types were any. And you can see that there are still some any values floating here and there because sometimes types get complicated. But anyway, I wrote a way to check that if you have an interned object, or if you're trying to intern an object, that all the values in that object are either primitives, because primitives are interned by JavaScript. So you can create two strings with the same characters and they're going to compare as equal. And if you create like undefined is equal to undefined and null is equal to null, So all of that's use sense. Or one of the values of the intern object needs to be interned in and of itself. So you can create deeply nested values, arrays of objects. All of that is fair game as long as everything has been interned. And you want everything to have been interned because if value is interned and you mutate it, then all hell breaks loose, right? So I did this check at runtime. Then later, I thought, well, wouldn't it be great if the types could reflect that? So I wrote types that reflect that. Now, it may be a good idea to remove the runtime check for speed and no, that's mostly for speed. Because one thing that we have to think about is that intern is expensive. And with David's modifications, it will be less expensive, but it will still be expensive. We are doing things in JavaScript that typically would have been done in C++ and that would have been optimized to the moon and back. So we want this to be as fast as possible. So while we are observing how David changed things and all of that, we will want to benchmark things and see if we are making things better or worse in that capacity. And I'm sure that removing this check will make things better in terms of speed.
Mm-hmm. The other thing we could do is add this kind of check.
True.
So that it's there for development and not for production. For some reason, saving, yeah.
That's a good point.
But yeah, I guess that depends a little bit. But yeah. Don't know if you want me to leave that there.
I think that will make the merge process more complicated, so we will address this later. But I wanted to introduce the thing that has to do with benchmarking, which we will get into in a moment. And then really the part that David changed has to do with this, which is once the object that has been interned is ready for garbage collection, we don't want to be the ones holding on to it. So if it's the case that the only reference to an object is the pool of interned objects, then we want to let go of that reference. In other words, we want a weak reference in our pool of objects. That's what's happening here. And also the way that we put stuff in the pool of objects is relevant to David's pull request. We want this pool to store objects in the most efficient way possible to look up, because that's what makes interning expensive. We have to see by value equality, by structural equality, if there is something in the pool already. And that is a lot of work, especially in JavaScript, and David came up with a way of making that faster.
Yeah.
And he's going to teach us all about it now. What is the idea?
So come find me. I'm like, I don't know, there's some random stuff, probably from an advent of code. I just don't have the heart to delete it right now. Yeah. So the way that it works is that currently intern, the function, every time you want to create a new object, which there will only be one instance of that object with those particular values, you just diff if it's inside the pool or not. And you deep diff it, so you diff all the values on it and then check if it exists or not, which means you need to go through every single item. And it's just like a simple key value store in that way. And the change is primarily that instead of diffing every key or value in the pool, every element in the pool, instead the pool is structured in a way that it has, it's like a tree. So say the first key is there are two objects in the in the pool, one with the letter. So say you have the elements, the items A1 and A1, A2, or A1, B1. The way we represent that is that you have A1 here, and then B1. Oh no, that wouldn't, because it will be the second element, right? Is that how it works? Yeah. I'm trying to remember now.
It's true that I am only getting to this now, but you wrote this a while ago.
Yeah, I did write this a while ago, yeah. Let me just... yeah, so you have A1 and then B1. And then here you would have like a node. Sort of like, okay, there's an element here. And then it has children, B1, so there's another node here. And then this has a reference to the actual object. So that when you are checking if C1 or like some other thing exists, you don't need to like go through the entire object. You can just check if the first key is there, and you'll see if C1 is there. No, it's not. So that's pretty much how it works. And you kind of have like this is maybe not super representative, because in each node that you have here, you have all of the values which have A, and then you have the key for A, and then you have all of the values which have A1. And that sort of, if you see what I mean, there's two layers to each cache entry. You have all the keys and all the values before you get to the next item or entry in the object. And the way that it works for arrays is we sort of just imagine it. We might have to change this for maps and sets, but we kind of imagine it like 0, 1, 1, 1, like this. Mm-hmm. And that works because you can't have an object, like when you iterate through the keys of an object, they'll always come out as strings. So there will be keys as numbers in this nested cache. So they won't conflict, but maybe it's not the cleanest approach.
Well, my implementation, there's this duality as well. It relies on the fact that arrays really are objects in JavaScript.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
In what sense?
Well, if you look at the way that we compare... So this is the part that I was skipping over before, but here is the code that checks in a naive way, because we are iterating over all the objects in the pool. But here is the object, the code that for every object in the pool, it will check, am I equal to this object? Me being the thing that we are trying to intern, so the value at hand. And the way that we do that is by iterating over the keys and checking, is every key in me, I should say, equal to the object that I found in the pool. So this is relying on object.keys, but I'm calling object.keys even if this is an array.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Do you suspect that this nested implementation will be faster?
I am like 90% confident that this will be significantly faster, because it will reduce a lookup that could... I think that this is significantly faster for two reasons. First, even if you don't have a lot of objects in the pool, you will be able to divide the pool and get to an object or not much faster. And second, as you have more and more objects that you are interning, the cost doesn't go up so much.
Yeah.
You are now swapping. The cost is not how many objects you have interned, it's how big is your object. So this may become a bit slower if you are interning a ton of huge objects with tons of fields.
Yeah.
I don't find that that's usually the case. When you're interning stuff, you're usually interning coordinates, you're interning AST nodes, abstract syntax tree nodes. You are interning states on a state machine. You are interning, in my case, in program analysis, states on a abstract interpreter. So overall, relatively small objects, let's say. So I think that your implementation is going to be like head and shoulders above mine.
Well, I'm excited to see it.
Right. So I think that one thing that you did not do, if I remember right, is write any benchmarks, right?
I did not.
So
let's do it.
Well, we can do two things, and they're not mutually exclusive. We can write some artificial tests, like we can write a tight loop that just interns a ton of objects. And we can use my solution to Advent of Code Day 23 or so that uses intern. And it is slow enough that, and it's slow enough that I think we will see a difference. And I think the bottleneck is interning objects. So it's more like a real world example.
Yeah, that's a nice idea.
Right. So do you want to try and write some synthetic benchmarks?
I thought you said you wanted to try using Advent of Code.
No, I think that both ideas are nice. One is more like a controlled experiment, and the other is in the real world with lots of codes, because it's just a puzzle, but still.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's give it a go.
One thing that I want to make sure I understand about your implementation is you sort the keys of the object, right?
Yeah, I do that.
Okay.
Yeah, because otherwise it won't be sort of. I only do it for objects, obviously, but otherwise you can insert. They normally come out in insertion order, but it needs to be sorted.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's wrong.
Oh, and another thing I should mention is that we hope that in the future all of this work will be obsolete, because this is kind of a polyfill for a proposal for a language change in JavaScript. Even at the syntax level, because
I also had absolutely,
yeah. So the way that you use this library looks like this, and I hope that in the future I will be able to swap this dollar with a hash, and then this will become the proposed syntax for tuple, which is the name that they give to an intern array, and an intern object will become a record. So there is a proposal called records and tuples. Right. Let's write some benchmarks.
Let's do it.
So here are the tests for our guy. And I guess I will leave the benchmark as the last thing. So there is this thing in Node.js, and I'm not sure if it's JavaScript. I think it's Node.js. It's called console.time. And then you give it a label. So we'll call this intern, just like the name of the test. Then we do a bunch of stuff. And then we console.timeEnd. And we must give the same label. And it will show some nice prints on the console. Now we intern a bunch of values. How do we want to go about this?
I guess we want to intern like thousands.
Yeah, so let's create something like an iterations, and for iteration 0 iteration less than iterations, and iteration plus plus. And I kind of want to hold on to these values because I don't want it to be garbage collected, because I think that the garbage collection may interfere with our measurements. So I will create something like objects.
I can't imagine that. Oh, well, maybe, I suppose. I was going to say I can't imagine that this would actually... well, there could be some garbage collection going on, but that it would actually garbage collect, because it's going to be such a small amount of stuff, but actually it could it could be a large amount of stuff, so it could actually end up in quite a lot of garbage collection.
Yeah, and it's true that garbage collection is unpredictable. So I will try and sidestep that issue, because that's a whole can of worms that we are going to get into. That's the name of this stream even, because in order to do this idea that you have of the pool and everything, you also had to touch the code that deals with garbage collection. So you can see how this is really something that is a polyfill for something that should be in the language, because we are now mucking about with the garbage collector. Yeah. Anytime you write a finalization registry, I think that it's something that's like, ooh. Right, so
I guess we should generate some keys.
Yeah, can you take over?
Yeah, I mean, my first thought is do we want a random number of keys?
We kind of want to have some hits and some misses.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do that. I mean, is this a really stupid idea to do like, and then
wait a second, don't tell me that Copilot picked up on the syntax for creating interned objects. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Good job, robot.
Yeah, I mean, that seems manageable. I mean, we don't have to have a... Now, I was actually going to do like, we want it to be a bit more random than that, and we don't want it to be the first few. My initial thought was to do like a math dot, something like that, but what we want is actually, we could do like something like this.
Well, you can. It seems like the point is simply that you want stuff to be random, and it so happens that in this little utility package there is an utility called random string, which does more or less what you wrote.
No, I don't want it to be totally random, because unless there's more to random string.
No, it's just going to use math.random.
Well,
this is what random string does.
Okay, that's nice, but that's not quite what I need. So I want a bit more. Like, first of all, we're only saying really like up to 100 keys in an object to be like relatively realistic, I suppose. Also, these are not deeply nested at the moment, so maybe we need to profile that as well separately.
Well, that is not supposed to be a problem, because the way that our notion of equality is shallow.
Yeah, that's true. That's 100% true. But maybe would the size have a big impact? I suppose not. No,
But
that's
your
really
notion of the pool is, oh no, forget about it. Your notion of the pool, it goes deeper as you have more fields, not as you have nested objects. Go ahead.
yeah. And then so the idea with this is that like it will there will be some random overlap with the keys. It's not always going to be the first 100 or the first 50 in that object, if you see what I mean. So that's why the random string isn't enough.
I love that.
And then something like that.
Object from entries. I would have used the splat operator. All right.
What's the splat
The
operator?
dot dot dot.
But these are like entries right now.
Yeah, but aren't you able to do something like
No.
no?
I guess. I mean, I guess we should probably do arrays as well. I mean, maybe we should do that. Maybe we should just say,
It doesn't hurt. Yeah.
although that's not, maybe that won't work very well. Because the value doesn't, there's no reason for it to be random. It shouldn't impact.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Okay. And then, is that it?
Let's run. And to run this, I just need to run the tests.
And then I guess, I mean, we could make this a, yeah, I'm just thinking maybe we make this a and then assert like dot within, something like that. You see what I mean? So it's actually part of the set tests. I don't know if that's
so
interesting or useful.
you're turning this into a test.
Yeah.
Instead of
what
just
do you think of that?
An observation. I like where this goes. There is an issue, however. The issue is that if your machine is too slow, the test may fail. And the machine on GitHub Actions, for instance, may be too slow. I don't know if it is, but...
Yeah. And also, we don't really have a time that we need it to run in. I guess it's more that once we've created a reasonable amount of time for it to run, we don't really want for that to regress too much.
Fair enough. Yeah. The way that I see this benchmarks is usually like I am going to implement an idea and I want to see if it's better. I run the tests, I implement the idea, I run the tests, and I compare. So it's more like a development tool for me than
a regression test.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't have a strong preference. It's just a weak preference on leaving it as a development tool, so that if your machine is, maybe if you are streaming and you are on a Skype call, your tests don't pass because your machine is under heavy load.
Well, speaking of weak preferences, should we get into the weak references? So segue. No, let's run this and see how long it takes. Oh, did we see already?
Well, I will run again just for good measure, but it was around 200 milliseconds. So
is that
you can see.
Is that slow enough for us to measure stuff? I guess so.
Yeah, we can bump it up by 1 order of magnitude, and that will be some solid 2 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Nope. Because because of the way that I implemented the thing, it doesn't grow up linearly.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there you have it. So 1,000 seems to be a
Well,
good number, right?
so, well, I don't know. Maybe we'd want it to run in 1,000, but realistically, like a program in Node.js, what's the default limit of a Node.js um, program? Process. It has like some default, right?
For what?
And sorry,
For what? A default for what?
sorry, like heap size.
Yes, there is a
So
default heap size. We ran into that issue in Advent of Code.
so let's say that like most programs run at least half, like run it around half. Like we could create like about half that size and see, because that would like give us like, okay, this is a typical program. That's how long it's gonna run each time take to run. Anyway, we can get into this another time. Right now, this is all about optimizations, and 200 milliseconds is enough time
It's enough
to
time.
optimize.
So my first experiment, just because it's a low-hanging fruit, is I want to see how much the runtime check costs.
Yeah.
Because if it costs too much, it's going.
I mean, there's also the fact you're allocating an array. Okay, the insertion is failing.
Well, that's because one of my tests was that it would.
Yeah. No, I know.
It's not even this
I'm
one.
just saying.
It is.
I'm just saying you also weren't doing that comparison in the most efficient way.
I was not doing this in the most efficient way, you say?
Yeah. Well, let's run it. Let's see how much.
How would you optimize this? Now I'm curious.
I mean, it's just that I see you allocate. I mean, maybe the JIT will get good with this.
Good point.
But I would be curious to see if it actually this gets better.
You know, another thing that I like about this version that you are writing, the types are narrowed.
Yeah.
And with this,
That's
types
true.
are not narrowed. And if you're watching this at home and you're like, what is he talking about? What is narrowing of types? It's the coolest feature in TypeScript. It's just the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, it doesn't exist in every language. Yeah.
I love this feature. It does not exist in every language. In fact, I would argue that most type systems don't have narrowing. And it's something that every time it works, it's not always that it works because it's mostly a heuristic. But every time it works, and it keeps getting better with every version of TypeScript. Every time it works, I'm like, yeah, it makes my day. And yeah, type narrowing is this idea of like, you have your inner value. And at this point, inner value may be a string or a number and so on. If you have an if type of inner value is equal to string, and then everything inside this block, every time you refer to inner value, then it knows that the type is a string. It's no longer that bunch of possible types. For instance, here, it could be any of the inner values, but in here, inner value is string. So it knows that the same variable will have different types under different contexts. So it's narrowing this wide type into this narrower type. And this is so cool. All right. So you're telling me that I could have optimized this, and you are right about that. But even better than doing something fast is not doing it at all. There. Aha, it makes it slower.
No. It doesn't have a significant impact then.
It doesn't.
Probably because it's returning early. It's just like it's going through every value and it's like, no, this is not in the cache. Or I don't know actually. Maybe it's saying it is in the cache.
Do you think that in our setup, Interning
we-
is not the bottleneck. Maybe something else is the bottleneck. The push is the bottleneck, or
Could we
the random stuff.
could we look at the size of the log the size of the cache versus the number of iterations out of interest?
So you want on the end of each iteration to console log the size of the cache?
It doesn't have to be just at the end of everything.
So we have our intern, or actually our $ pool, and then there are two different types of pools, and we are actually using both. I'm just gonna get the record one and look at the size.
Well, there are two, but they'll be the same, won't they? Yeah.
We are mostly getting cache misses, or we're mostly missing.
So yeah, most of the time it should be running that code actually. So I'm surprised that doesn't have a huge impact.
I'm surprised. That's the beauty of benchmarking. We can never predict what's gonna happen. Should we make these numbers smaller so that we have a more healthy proportion of cache hits and misses? Yeah, there you go. That's healthier. For 1,000 objects that we are creating, we are hitting the pool half of the time. Maybe I went a bit overboard. Let's go with 15.
Yeah. That's good.
I'll take it.
I like that.
And then without it was 100. No, actually, let me do this. I will go a couple more times.
Yeah, it'd be good to. I mean, we could use some benchmarking thing to see more or less, like if you do this 3 times, what is the average or the mean?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, median. I was going to say. Yeah. Okay, but it's about 100. It is a little bit faster, maybe 94.
No,
Yeah,
it's about the
maybe not.
same.
It's about the same.
I would say that it's some they are faster with the check.
No. Yeah, maybe.
Okay, I guess the check is staying then. It costs us nothing.
Do you agree to get rid of to change this check a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah.
To do just big int. I didn't see that coming actually. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Were you doing big int before?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a type.
Okay.
It's the type that everyone forgets about. Everyone always forgets about big int and symbol. When asked what are all the types of in JavaScript, those are the ones that people forget because they're new ones. And
I wonder if calling that. Should we run it a few times? Because we're running type of multiple times.
Yep. Let's
could-
run and see
could
if factoring it out will make a difference. So this makes things faster. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does.
Yeah. I mean, this is a really stupid thing to try, but if I did this, would that make a difference?
Let's find out.
All right. Oh, yeah. And then I need to add T and then do that for all these. And then, why is saving not auto-formatting for me?
Because of LiShare.
Is it-
That's okay.
Does it format for you?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't have format on on save enabled.
Oh, okay, fine. So I could just run format document, it would have worked.
It makes it slower.
Really? Because we're allocating a variable, maybe. About.
Very scientific method here, Evol.
Okay, let's just stick with that then.
And I will want to see the diff to see if we've got all of them. String, number, big int, boolean, symbol, undefined, and null. Yep.
Yeah. Do you think we should add the production check?
No.
Okay. Okay.
I think it's fine like that. So
All right.
there you go for all you JavaScripters out there who don't like TypeScript. Take it. Did you hear the drama when the projects from the Rails community went from TypeScript back to JavaScript?
With DHH being the head of the spearheading that movement, yeah.
People love their drama.
Yeah. It's pretty wild.
Now, I think we can bring this back.
Yep.
And for good measure, here is the number, people. Before David's changes, it runs in about 100 milliseconds. Even below that. Let us commit this, bring David's changes, and run it again.
Yeah, have the muscle memory of going to course law.
Is this on purpose or is some font not loading? This is much heavier than it was supposed to be. Everything is much bolder than it was supposed to be. There must be some font missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are getting some.
Are there any font there? Type ping. It's not that.
I can filter for.
You can sort by type.
More filters, request types, font.
There we go.
It's not trying to load any font.
Force refresh. I don't know.
Preserve log, disable cache. Ah, it's now putting a warning sign when you disable the cache. That's useful.
Yeah, I've been in that issue. I've had that issue before.
Okay, nope, nothing's ringing a bell here. So.
Okay. Well, anyway.
No filters, whatever. But it looks wrong. So what I need to do is first. And maybe there is a smarter way of doing this, but this is how I know how to do it. So I will git remote add, which is utterly silly.
Oh, what's that thing?
I accidentally command clicked it.
Oh, I thought it like came up with a little input so you can edit bits of text, which seems kind of useful.
So now I am on David's version of the code, which doesn't have the git ignores for the packages that I worked on after he branched. So we get a lot of stuff, which I am just going to delete And because it is a lot of stuff, including node modules folders, the delete is going to take a while. But it happened. Oh, it's still happening. Lovely stuff. While it's doing that, we can try and navigate to the same folder. Wait, what?
Maybe you deleted some of those files as well. They were in build.
I don't know what's happening here, but I feel like Visual Studio Code is glitching. Let's go to the terminal.
You'll need to reshare, live share, probably.
Yeah, I will need to do that when I reopen Visual Studio Code. But for now, I'm closing that guy for real.
Fair enough.
What's the status? Untracked files. I can do a git reset hard.
Isn't it you need to do head? Okay, yeah.
Still there. I always forget. It's like git clean fx, something like that. Still there.
I would just delete everything, like delete all the folders, just rmrf, and then like git checkout, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, it's making it worse. And there are some files that I don't want to delete. Specifically this file.
Did you delete it?
I deleted it.
Oh no.
Well, that's why we do backups,
Wait,
people.
but you might have the history in VS Code?
No, probably not. The thing is,
it might be written somewhere on your hard disk if it's not encrypted.
no, I use Backblaze. I would just go back and restore that file. No, not right now. But
okay. What will you use to do that, actually?
Backblaze.
Oh, is it good? I've never tried it out or heard of it.
You have never heard
Is
of
it
it?
an alternative? No.
It's a backup system. You install this app and you pay a quite hefty amount. It's kind of expensive, really. But it backs up your whole hard drive and external drives if you have them, and unlimited storage, and it's quite reliable. So, yeah.
And how much storage do you have with that? Must be quite expensive.
No, so it's unlimited storage. It's one fee and it's unlimited storage. And let's see how much they're charging. Recently they raised their prices. It's quite pricey. But on their 2-year plan, it's, I think, a good deal.
Yeah.
So this is what I pay.
Okay.
I find it kind of pricey.
Yeah.
But it gives me peace of mind.
What can you do? Yeah. Okay, cool.
And if you are like me and you deleted stuff that you shouldn't, and because I removed it on the terminal, it's not going to be on my trash. And if your computer ever gets... there is ransomware where they encrypt your whole drive and you have to pay to get the key. If you get some ransomware and people are trying to get your money, you can say like, haha, no, Backblaze already got my money.
That's true.
What have we here?
That's like the philosophical, like my friend was saying that he doesn't pay for insurance because if he breaks his phone, it costs about 50 quid to replace the screen or whatever, but the insurance over time adds up to that. So I guess it like averages out. It might be cheaper anyway to just buy a new phone than to pay for insurance.
Do you have insurance on your phone?
I do, yeah. But
I
don't
don't.
have.
I fix it myself.
Ah, that's good.
It's missing some screws, but who's counting? Okay, so it seems like I already messed up this thing. I used to have like this neat to-do folder with all the projects that I was migrating, and a to-do file that I just deleted with all the thoughts that I had about how I wanted to migrate stuff, and a done folder with all the stuff that I had already migrated. It seems like all of that is just so there.
Don't you need to do head rather than hard? Or does that by default it's head? I guess it must be.
But isn't it funny?
Yeah.
I must be in the wrong place because it doesn't have your code here. The utility package is not even here.
Do git log.
Ah, because you were using main.
Was I?
Yeah,
And what are you on? Patch 1.
patch 1.
Huh.
I'm now in the detached head state, so
Whatever that means.
you know what it means, right?
Detached head. No.
Ah, it means that you
Oh,
have checked out a branch. You have checked out a commit that doesn't have any branch pointing at it. So it means that if you were to commit and then check out another branch, you would lose references to this part of the tree. Does that make sense?
How did you check out a commit that doesn't have any branch associated with it? I didn't understand how you got there.
I guess I can at this point trust Visual Studio Code again. So I'll go back because then I will show you instead of just saying and waving my hands literally. So there, and if you go to any commit, you get its hash and you say git checkout. That you get into detached head state. Now I'm here, and if I make any commits, now I have created a new timeline, the blue timeline, and it doesn't. I'm still on this timeline, and that's all right.
I see.
But there is no branch pointing at this commit. So if I git check out main, now there is no way to reach that commit. In fact, it's not even drawing that commit anymore in the tree. Now the commit is still there, of course, and if I git ref log, then I will get the references to the latest commits that my working directory has been on. So with that, I can be like, okay, the last thing I did was a checkout moving from to main. So I can go to back. And then the graph is showing it again. So it's not the end of the world. Unless you got like git garbage collection and do a bunch of things, the commit will still be there. At least for a while. We are now in the whatever branch, people. And this is where the show starts. I have here your code. And because I just got this fresh out of the oven, I will need to npm install, or we will be getting a lot of errors. And I will merge master, old ways. I'll be merging main into whatever so that we have the benchmark code. And that merge will fail.
Why is weakref not happy?
Because I didn't have... I didn't run npm install, so the types node package wasn't here.
But I thought you just run it.
Yeah. And now it's still complaining about this. Can only be default imported. It is in this interop flag, which is in fact set here. So the npm install ran. The package is installed. But it seems like
Yeah.
TypeScript didn't pick it up, so it's only a matter of opening it again. And now it's there, it's working,
Okay,
and
cool.
here
All right.
it's working as well. Next, git merge main, and there is a conflict. That's expected. The conflict will happen here. It seems like I want the one below.
I don't see a difference. I don't see why it couldn't auto-merge that.
I thought that the conflict was going to happen on the other file because of the... but we ended up not removing the runtime check. Okay. So I am just going to say that I accept the incoming change, which is the one below.
Mm-hmm.
And this should be good.
Yeah, you can't get to the pool like that anymore, though.
That's all right. And I will also format the file. There is an error in prettier, so maybe we are missing some closing bracket.
Oh, yeah, I added, yeah. Or maybe I did. I'm not sure. Okay.
What's happening here? Is stuff that you wrote?
Oh, maybe I added some console logs by mistake, yeah, and forgot to remove them, yeah.
Okay. So
You can delete that.
yeah, I'm okay with that. No, I'm not giving you the pleasure of a commit message. Now all we gotta do is run the test again. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Okay. That's pretty good.
It is pretty good. It went down by, I want to say, an order of magnitude.
Yeah. Maybe a bit less, but yeah. That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. Do you want to see the change in the Advent of Code implementation in terms of performance?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, 100%.
All right. So for that, I will open my Advent of Code. And in there, I will search for this. So it was day 23, part 2, second attempt. That is not right. That's because I removed my inputs. I was a good person. I removed my inputs.
Maybe we can't test this then? Or, yeah, okay.
So this is 2023, day 23. This takes some time to run, like minutes, I want to say.
Should we refactor it whilst that runs and see if it completes in the time that it takes to refactor it? Or, like, upgrade it?
Yeah, the code is running and the code it has already loaded the original version without your branch. So
Yeah.
we can come into the node modules, into relatively straightforward, utilities, build, and get this index MJS, throw it out, then go into here, making sure that I have the latest build, just double checking things here. Then go into node, into build, get the index from here, and movie there. And I guess let's give them a fair chance. I'll let this one finish. No, who cares? My computer has multiple cores and JavaScript is single threaded. There. Fight!
Okay.
Meanwhile, I want to see the code. Talk is cheap. How did you do the trick, David?
Well, I would say like this could be. I tried to keep to your style as much as possible, and maybe it's kind of strange that we're doing quite a lot on the intern function. You know, like attaching quite a lot of things. But other than that, I think the best place to look is the types that I defined below.
So can I start a live share and then you drive and you show us stuff?
I can try, yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Hello, Bo. Fati says, I'm gonna play Doom while listening to you guys. You're the perfect soundtrack for slaying monsters and demons. I've heard stories of Greek ransomware that masqueraded as the police department of Greece. Your computer is illegal. Surrender yourself now.
Wow.
And then people with their pirated window installations are gonna be like, oh, my computer is illegal.
I'm curious about that background job, which I just quickly went past.
You want to know what it does?
Let me see if I can work it out, just from reading the code. Interval variance, initial running. Okay, it does the job on an interval. And then you can stop it from running on an interval, pretty much. Okay, but just with set timeout is the way that it's in queued. That makes sense. Okay. Anything else to add?
To the background job? Oh, I really like that one. I use it often, even. It is a way to have a job running over and over, useful for things like cleaning up database entries and sending email, that sort of stuff that you don't want to do in the request response cycle. And
yeah,
it is in spirit similar to set interval. But there are three things that are special about it. First, in set interval, there is this little diagram that exemplifies this. In set interval, it will start the job on the interval regardless of how long the job takes. And if it's the case that the job is slow, then it will start interleaving, and that makes everything grind to a halt. While this version knows to only apply the interval after the end of the job. There is also the fact that we introduce a small variance just so that not all background jobs fire simultaneously, overloading the machine. This is what I find the most interesting, though. It's that you can control the background job in two ways. You can either, for whatever reason, tell it to run right away, or you can tell it to stop gracefully. So if the job is running, it runs to completion and it doesn't get in queued again. And if the job is not running, it just doesn't try to run. And I find this very useful. For instance, I have a background job that sends emails. But if I have or password reset. I want to send the email right away. If it's something like an email notification, it can wait for the job to be picked up. But if it's an email password reset, I want to send that email as soon as possible. So I wake up the background job for it to pick up that job.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And I guess graceful stopping is something that is self-evident why that would be nice. You don't want the job runner to have to be killed if he can.
Yeah, so I had something similar. So we had, you had an app which was sending messages which would work offline. So you would commit the messages to the local database and then you would send them off, and you would basically query the database for changes and then sync those changes to the server. And it would basically just run once. Or another thing is like you're scrolling to the top of a chat and then you want to load more messages and you need to make the request to the server, and that could be called multiple times. And basically the data structure, I guess, which worked best for me was a queue. So you just, if there's something in the queue, then you don't run it. And then there was just a flag whether to dedupe concurrent like invocations to the queue. So if you call it multiple times whilst it's running, it will be called again at the end, but only once.
I have written that kind of code as well.
Yeah. So yeah, it's all very interesting. It's very nice to come up, but it's nice that this is a different abstraction and that it worked well for you.
Yeah, the thing that you mentioned is something that I do. For instance, when the user is typing something and you want to do like an immediate search, for instance, Google does that. As you start typing,
Yeah.
it is doing stuff. So if you want to have that, the way that I implemented it is, if you are typing, I am going to send a request to the server to do the search. And if you continue typing, I will wait for the search to finish because I want to be able to show you something. And only then I will send another one. So I kind of mark the job to be rerun. Anyway.
The only thing is, this could potentially be improved with abort signals.
Well, that's
I don't know
what this is.
Yeah, but this won't actually stop it mid-run, right? Like the job could accept an abort signal. And if it's like in the middle of a fetch request or some async operation which supports abort signals, then it could actually stop it during that, which could be cool. But it seems like a lot of code doesn't support abort signals. But
I thought about well, there are two things. The first is that you would want to sometimes stop the job in the middle, and you can always do that when using my little helper function by having a job. Because you pass what the job is going to be. You can have a job that has some sort of entry point, like an abort signal. And then there is also the question of what is the interface for the background job? I thought about having the interface for the background job receiving an abort signal instead of having the stop method. I went for the stop method because I wanted this to be a thing as well. And I thought that this was more natural. It's the same, it's more uniform this way. But it is true that the abort signal is what is used in fetch and in the timer promises in Node.js and all of that. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like this. Anyway. So this is an intern node. So each so this is the root into, actually it's more important maybe to look at the intern cache. So this is like what the cache looks like. We were looking at that pool. I called it a cache here. So you have a key, ignore the intern prefix, I guess, and then the inner here follows your naming of like, it's referring to something shallow inside an object or an array. So for all the arrays, this will be just 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then these will be the keys of a particular object. And then this will be the value. So, you can imagine the cache could have many keys, but also many values. And then for each of these values, there is essentially an intern node, which can have children underneath it, which is another intern cache.
Okay.
That's the base of it. And each of the node could also have the interned value, which is basically, this means that this node is it's the end of an object, and there is actually a value which has been produced. Because, with the example where you have the object A1 and A1B1, some will have values interned at A1 and other ones won't, right? There might be a partial object.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is a reference to the parent, and then there's just a flag if it's the root, and there is the original inner key and value, so what it refers to. So it's this inner key and this inner value. They are also stored on the intern node. Now, these two and the parent, they are just details of the implementation, which allow us to purge data efficiently, but they're not important for storing the data or accessing the data. They'll become apparent when you look at how the finalization registry works.
Before we go there, can I ask you about this any? Because we do have a type, or at least we used to have a type for things that can be interned.
Yeah, well, I mean, I mean, you're saying this could have like a T here, maybe, and that could be T, and then this would have to be like a T here.
No, not even.
So
I was
on.
not thinking of generic. I was thinking there is somewhere a type that is string, number, big int, boolean, null, symbol, undefined, null, and values that have been interned. It is the intern inner value, I think. Yes, that one.
Yeah.
So that any could be this, I think.
No, I don't think so. I think that I'm just trying to find the. Yeah, so we should probably group the intern types together, either above or below. I'll put them above because it's helpful to read the types all together. I'm just trying to find my types now. Here they are. I also don't like that there's this prefix, but this should be enough. I'll just group them together up here. So I need to format. Configure default formatter.
Yeah, live share does that. And then when you turn off live share, you will have to do it again.
Okay. So intern inner value. So this interned is actually not. But this intern inner value refers to the result. But it's actually a key. I mean, it would be like it's a bit more than this, right? Because the result is something like this or that. That's what interned is. intern type. Yeah. So it's going to be like if you see what I mean. Well, not necessarily key string or symbol. It could be like or symbol, right? And then interned is, yeah, maybe our types aren't great here because interned type. Yeah, I mean, it should be read only. That's true. Maybe I'll just put that around there.
Okay, I think I changed my mind, and my claim is not that this any could be intern inner value, it's that the whole thing could be that. Like, oops, my copy didn't work. But I think that it could have been like that.
No.
Just because there is a typo error, or because the intent is wrong?
The intent is wrong.
So I don't think I get intern value.
Intern value is the final object that we store. We have a weak ref to the final interned like tuple or.
So I guess this is an any. This is just a known. We don't need to know that.
We don't need to know that. Definitely not. Yeah, unknown is better. Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
But we could say we do know more about it. We do know it's more like this. But I guess we know more.
No, that's the intern part.
Sorry?
That's the intern part.
Yeah, I guess we could include that in here where type extends like one of these two kind of things.
No. Type, if anything, it extends.
No?
No, I guess you are right. Let me think.
I mean, it's failing for some reason, but.
Yeah, why doesn't it let us extend that way? Circular references.
Is there a circular reference?
Yeah, intern refers to intern inner value, which refers to interned.
Well, there you go. But we could probably find a way around that. But I'm fine with unknown.
Just we have to remove the extends here, if I may.
Yeah, and also I'm fine with like not specifying more concretely because we could, like you said before, extend this to map and set and whatever else, and so it's okay.
Yeah. Also, now I'm just out of curiosity going to come here, and we have our times. We have our times, and the times are significantly different. Yes, sir. First, correctness, still there, great. Second, speed. This took 5 minutes and 26 seconds, I think.
Yeah.
And this took 53 seconds.
Wow.
And
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's good in theory, it's good in practice, and it's good in the real world as well.
Cool. So, yeah. So that was the high-level explanation. Then I was going to explain. So we know what intern value is the final value that we've interned, and then we've got the children, which is this nested cache, which has these keys and values. And now there's like, why do we need parent? Why do we need key and value here? And for that, we need to come down to the finalization registry. So,
that unknown.
Is it the unknown?
It probably is.
Hmm. It is, but I'm looking at that type. Yeah. Should we stay with that any
Yes.
and come back to this another time?
Like DHH wrote in his article defending JavaScript over TypeScript, what is easy becomes
Yeah.
hard, and what's hard becomes any.
That's quite funny. So yeah, so let's go here. So ignoring how this works and ignoring the special case, if we've already returned a value, then return it. So we found that node which specifies this value, so dereference it. Otherwise, mark it as interned and intern store it in the intern value as a weak ref, and then register this value and the node. So what happens is when this value gets dereferenced, we have the node, and the node, what that gives us is
Hang on. Let's go back to line 294 because I think the TypeScript had a point there. When you deref something, it's a weak ref. Derefing it may be undefined. That's the beauty. So your exclamation mark there. Oh no,
is wrong.
yeah. The problem was not
Oh,
the unknown, but still, this line, the exclamation
well,
mark there, shouldn't be there,
that's true.
right?
Yeah, I guess what I probably meant to do was this,
Aha.
but even then, it could be garbage collected in between here and there.
Yep.
So
Uh-huh.
that's a great catch. That's a really good catch. So maybe all of those timings are obsolete now, but that's a really, yeah, I mean, that's the kind of bug that would be really difficult to find in production.
Oh, it would be amazing.
Yeah, great catch. So we mark it as intern, and then we have this registry. I did go for this. I don't know if you would disagree with this, but I got rid of it as enumerable because
Okay.
if you're going to go through the entries of an object, it could be really annoying. But maybe you disagree, and we can just make this enumerable true.
Ooh. So my concern was that when the thing is enumerable, it shows up when you console log, which is mildly annoying, but also perhaps a bit useful because you can imagine that once they implement records and tuples in JavaScript, a console log really will have the hash sign there, like that. I don't know why I'm doing this on the terminal, but anyway,
Yeah.
you can imagine that this is how the thing is gonna console log. So I thought that having the symbol there was okay, but you are right. If you're doing object dot values or entries or keys, that symbol is going to be annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this. And what is
Cool.
value here?
Great.
What does that do?
This is just when you define a property. So this is just going to be true. So the value of the property intern symbol will be true. It's like, you know,
I get it.
value intern symbol is true like that.
Got it.
So
Also, okay. I thought that this was inside of intern. It's not.
yeah. So that's why I feel like this stuff maybe should live. Like we're doing a lot. We're adding a lot of methods to, or I've added a lot of methods to intern. Maybe feels like it could be a little object itself to do this stuff.
Yeah, is there a reason? Maybe intern at this point could be even a. No, I was gonna say a class, maybe not. But Mark intern, it is used in multiple places. Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit easier to read if I did it that way.
Yeah, but why is it used in multiple places? A segue to your next part.
Well, the only reason it's used in multiple places is because of the null tuple and the null record. We just have this special case when there's nothing inside. And maybe there's a way around that, and maybe we don't need that. Well, actually, there's no way of knowing if it's... well, we need to have a root, and the root intern node is a bit special. But maybe there's a nicer way of doing this than the way I've done it with this stuff, with having these two cases, with the null tuple and the null record. But it comes from sort of overloading the pool with both of them, and needing to have a root node. And this, I guess you could have the root tuple node and the root record node, but it's a detail which I don't love, but it exists. But it's not that difficult to understand. We can come back to it. Well, since we're talking about it. So if you hit the root node, then if it's an array, then you return the null tuple. Otherwise, you return the null record. And that's what it is. Otherwise, it's much easier to, you don't need to, instead of always referencing them, you would instead dereference the value which is there, if you see what I mean. But because there will only ever be one, it's slightly simpler to just have this special case. And also then doesn't need to be a weak ref. I guess we could instead I'm just wondering if we could get around this by not having to check if it's the root. It helps us having a root, though.
Because I think that what's going to happen in the finalization registry is that you're going to go from the value up until you reach the root.
Exactly, yeah. It's helpful to have a root node, and that's why we have these two special cases. And then how the garbage collection works. So the node has been garbage collected, so we prune the tree. So we keep going up the tree, and if the current node has no children and no final value, then we can delete it. So no size. I know you probably don't like this comparison, but it's relatively concise, and I think it reads well.
Why do you say that?
Because you like to compare explicitly undefined and null and size of things, rather than, which is fair, because you know JavaScript, the good parts you've referenced in the past, which is fair enough. But I don't know. Well, maybe you don't mind it in this case. What do you think?
Size is a number, and you're coercing it to a Boolean.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it reads well that, like, if there's no size of children at this node that we're traversing, and there's no intern value, then do something.
And what makes you write it this way here?
It fits on one line.
No.
Actually, is there a potential issue here? Because what if it's undefined? This could be a bug, no? So what are we doing here? We're deleting this particular. We might need that. This comparison might be relevant, to be honest. So here we are deleting the current node value, and the value of the node here is what is this? This doesn't make sense.
Says every programmer after 1 month, I guess.
Yeah. Bear in mind, caveat now, get my excuses in. I wrote this a month ago.
Also, I don't think you wrote tests for the finalization registry.
No.
And yeah, it may be the case that the finalization registry isn't really doing the right thing, and it may be the case that in our code we never exercise that.
So, well, the goal here. Oh, no. This is correct. I understand it. So what's happening here is our current node, we want to get to the parent node. And then from that parent node, we want to delete our node. We want to delete this current node from the parent. So we have to get our key and delete our value. And that is pruning it from the tree and removing it from the parent. We are removing ourselves from our parent. And that is how it works. And this key and value here, if you remember, these are the inner value of the object. Does this line make sense?
What you have selected makes sense, yes, and I think that ultimately it is our goal in life, right? We want to be able to get to our parents and say, like, I'm independent now.
Yeah.
For many people, that's our goal in life. That's what we want to be. So I love this, yes.
Yeah, very good. And then again, we go into the parent. And then, okay, so now what we're going to see is like, okay, if this key is now, the size of this is now nothing, we can also delete the key. So if you remember, each node has basically a map of keys and a map of values. So it could be that there are other, do you see what I mean? There's like 2 levels deep. And so we might need to also remove the, so it looks like this, each node. It has like a map of this and that. Thank you, Copilot. So what we've done is we've removed this first line removes this node from this inner map here. And then we want to see, okay, now can this whole thing be removed?
I have a question about the type, which could simplify, if what I'm saying makes sense, it could simplify this part. Do you think that what you have above could be turned into what I'm writing now? Maybe not with a list, though.
I guess, well, you could intern it, couldn't you?
Yeah. But you see the intent.
Yeah, but then you have to look at all of the keys and values, right? When you're, instead of, getting and checking, you then have to iterate through all of for a particular set. Obviously, it's going to be less, but you can't just like get, constant time operations. It's going to be dependent. If there are lots of entries which have, that key, you're going to have to look at all the different values.
No, you just look at the value that you have on your hand, right? You are trying to intern a record that has a certain key that has a certain value,
Yeah.
and then you look it up on the map.
Yeah, so it really is important though to do this bit, right?
The interning, yes, that's what is, of course, not ideal.
Yeah, because otherwise you could make a string out of this.
Yeah, yeah.
But the reason that you can't do that, you can't do a string out of it, is because this inner key, by the way. Okay, now it doesn't matter, actually. Right now it doesn't matter. But if we were to extend this to maps, maps can have objects as keys, or anything as keys, or other intern thing as keys. And you wouldn't be able to like concatenate that into a string. And you can use that as a key in the map. So that's one reason why. And
yeah, I would argue that
yeah,
if you are going to intern maps, the keys must be interned as well as the values.
yeah, that's
But I
fair.
get your point,
That is
yes.
fair.
It could be a complicated object. Well, so it needs to be the two-level stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could genuinely be this. It could be an interned value here, but this breaks my head to think about the garbage collection of the garbage collection
Yeah.
cache.
And
And
also, I don't love I don't love the self-reference of having to intern
yeah,
values to make the interning work.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so if we can get past that, that's pretty much how this bit works. Do you think there's some comments that I could add to make this clearer what's going on here?
No.
Okay. Then, so the final thing is, I guess, probably this special case empty object could be simplified, and we could do it in the same way as this. And maybe I'll quickly talk you through this before we start writing the test for the finalization registry. And maybe if something comes up where you think we could simplify this, it would be nice if we didn't have a special case. But yeah, so we've got this, we want to intern this object or tuple. It comes in, and the entries for an array are simply the entries, which is an iterator, which is nice. And here for the object, importantly, we sort them so that they always go into our cache in the same way. And then we just drill down the cache. Would you like to read through this?
All right. So you are starting at the root and you are working your way down. Then for each of the entries, so for A and B, if the node does not have any children at all, so it's kind of a new node, just set it up. If there is no key, so if A is not found here, then set it up. Then there are possible values for A, 1 and 2 and 3 and so on. So get that that map, and it will exist. So the value map will be a map mapping like A1 maps to a bunch of things, A2 maps to a bunch of things, A3 maps to a bunch of things. And this exclamation mark is justified by these lines. Then if the value is not in the map, so we saw that A1 does not exist in the map, so we are about to create it. We will set, and then here you're creating one of those nodes.
Yep.
The parent is us, the key is this, and the value is, okay. And you will keep doing this. So now you are you need to get it again because you may have created it on these lines, but you're just going one step deeper. So now you are here instead of at the root, and also this exclamation mark is justified by this, which can be tricky because you could be going into and interning a value as the garbage collector is running, and then the finalization registry may be running. But that's not an issue because JavaScript is only has a single thread.
Yeah.
So, all right. Yeah.
By that logic, did I not need to do this in 2 steps?
By that logic,
Could I have just done...
No. The garbage collector runs in parallel, so your derefs are not guaranteed to work in one tick of the event loop, but the finalization registry and the rest of your code will run in a single thread. Now, I'm only 80% confident of what I just said, but I think this is the case. So your derefs, they have to do with the garbage collector, but the finalization registry is running in JavaScript land. The garbage collector is C++ land. Yeah, I think I'm right about this. So yeah, I think I get. You're drilling down the tree. You're setting up all the maps along the way.
So your point is that if, like, you know, I could get a child here, but if the finalization registry is running, literally that code is literally running in parallel with this code, then...
No, it isn't. It isn't. The finalization... Yeah. I don't think that the finalization registry runs in parallel. I think it runs when the event loop is idle.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're 100% right, yeah. The garbage collection can happen in parallel, truly in parallel, but the code that I'm running cannot. Yeah, it is kind of a try. Yeah.
Aha, you have heard of tries before?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I built an anagram thing once with it.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Yeah, it's really nice. It has like a nice prefix idea to it. But feel free to explain it. Not everyone's heard of it. But...
you have used it in the past. Feel free to explain it.
I mean, yeah, the idea is that it has like, it breaks down a word into each letter or each token, perhaps, and builds up the final word from each node in the path. And it can be useful for many things, which I'm not really remembering all the uses of, but yeah.
I think it's used, for instance, for full text search.
Common prefix, that's an obvious idea that you can get out of it when you have a common prefix, which is what we have, right? We have all these objects and they may have common prefixes which are shared. So we need to iterate through all of their keys and values until we get to the final value.
Yeah. And the reason why this is faster than the original implementation is that we are not iterating over all the things.
Yeah.
And also we turned the comparisons into map lookups.
Yeah.
These map lookups. And the map lookups can be done using hashes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Cool stuff. How do you want to get rid of this special case? What is the idea? My initial reaction is always like just have just have a sentinel. So if you have somewhere, you will have this here. We could have some more stuff in here.
Yeah, well, so the issue is that each node only ever references one value, but the root node is different because it references two values. Like if you have an array with no values, and if you have a record with no values, they will both end up at the root node. So they don't fit in the same data structure because of this overloading.
Mm-hmm. One
So
way to
that's
fix that would be when you are drilling down. Let me think about this. When you're drilling down, which is what you do here, your node in the end will be the node that contains the value. And then... okay, I think I have another proposal. In my original implementation, I had one big pool of everything. And then I thought, this is a big pool of everything with arrays and objects. That's silly. I know that this is going to be slow because I'm doing a linear search. So how about I split the pool into arrays and objects, which I called tuples and records.
Yeah.
We could do the same here, which will speed things up because there will be... no, not really, will it? Because in linear search, it will speed things up to reduce the bins. But since you're doing the map lookup, it doesn't really speed things up. But it would get rid of this case.
It would get rid of that case. Yeah, and we could just, and we might need to do that anyway when we add like maps and sets or more data structures, I guess.
Yeah. But I am not super tempted to add maps and sets because as far as I understand, the proposal that they have for the language doesn't include them, which is a shame because having an intern set can be very useful.
Yeah.
Maps as well. If your map is representing a graph, it would be able to... It would be super nice to be able to ask the question, are these two graphs the same?
Yeah, and you could always like represent that using an object, but that's not what objects are made for, right?
No. Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. One of the things which irks me about TypeScript and maps and objects is that actually, ignore me. That's a null moot point. Sounds like you understand it. Should we write the finalization registry test?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. And we were talking about this, you and I. There are two ways we can go about this. Way number one is we make this function that runs on the finalization registry available somewhere else, probably as a property of intern, like everything else here. And we run this function in our tests. That's cool because it is deterministic. Or we can try and fill up the memory, or in some other way, there is a flag you can pass to the node executable that will make the garbage collector available to you as a function. And we can try and force the garbage collector to run. Yeah. It's non-deterministic, and trickier, but it can be kind of cool. It is an end-to-end test, and I tend to prefer end-to-end tests when they're possible. So,
just a stupid question. This null tuple and null record, they will never get garbage collected, will they?
I want to say no, because the pool will have a strong reference to them, right?
The pool itself won't.
Where are you?
But they are referenced here.
No,
That's fine. Yeah.
no, but the pool, the data structure that is the pool. They're not in the pool.
Yeah, they're
They're
not.
referenced there.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, that was sidetrack. Yeah, so the two options, run the garbage collector code, which I kind of like, honestly, because that's like more like an end-to-end test. It's just not going to fit so nicely into the test suite.
Yeah, but I would love to at least experiment with the garbage collector and see if triggering it does what we
Yeah,
expect. How controllable is the garbage collector once we expose it in Node?
definitely.
That-
Do you want to drive?
Uh, this may be frustrating, but do you want to do it another time? Because we have been going for 2 hours.
Oh yeah, shit, we have, That is fair enough.
And I know that
Yeah.
this is frustrating because we said that, like, it's in the title of the stream and we said we would do it. But I would love to not be here for like 4 hours.
Yeah, fair enough. Absolutely fair enough. Yeah.
So, folks, tune in for next time because we will be going into the garbage collector. And let's see what people have to say before we say our goodbyes. A project forced me to return to decent sampler after blissfully using SFISfully. To my annoyance, decent sampler doesn't support FLAC. Needless to say, I bugged the dev about it. The programmer's caveat, it works. Why? And Martin is here. Hey. All right, so today we learned that David is very smart and can optimize my code 1 order of magnitude. We learned about tries, and we learned that I shouldn't be just git resetting stuff on my machine.
That's for sure.
I really hope that, because there is in Backblaze, there is like a history, so you can go back in time for 1 whole year. I really hope that part works.
Yeah. Yeah, I really hope so too.
Well, anyway, thank you to Fotis, Martin, and Nod Was One and Bo for joining on the chat. And thank you, David, for always
being up to nerd out.
Yes, and for always contributing to the stuff that I'm doing. I love how this became a collaboration. It's one of my favorite things. So
that's great.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Yeah. Do you want to do this like on a regular schedule?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Let's text about it though.
All right. So let's not commit to it now. Okay. So always awesome talking to you, and I'll see you soon.
See you soon. Bye. Bye.
Thank you for watching the stream. You know how great it has been. Or maybe it sucked, and I am glad that you stuck with me. And soon we'll all be back together for some more coding or talking or chilling. The next time I'll be streaming.